Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Liberty Libations. I'm Zach Varnell, and I'm here with Zane, Placie, Stephen Hilton, and Nick Ciesielski. So what's going on, everybody? What are you guys drinking?
Got an On the Rocks brand old-fashioned.
Yeah.
Nice. So is that like a pre-mixed drink or?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What about you, Stephen?
I'm repping some local stuff tonight. So I've got the Piedmont Brewing Company out of Griffin. They're also in Macon, but the Monolith IPA, and then Six Bridges out of Johns Creek, Georgia. They have a fantastic. This is one of their new doubles. So
nice.
Steve, It's your favorite holiday because I heard it earlier that today is National Beer Day.
I thought that was earlier in the week. I think it was Tuesday.
Oh, well.
Yeah, but absolutely.
That was the other day.
I guess I don't like beer enough to know that. So.
Well, yeah, and
holidays.
And ironically, on National Beer Day, the Buffalo Trace Distillery was being flooded.
You had mead, Nick? Is that what I just saw?
Yep, the homemade stuff.
Nice. Yeah. How many bottles of that do you have left?
I've got like 20 bottles sitting around the house right now.
Okay. Nick, there may be a delay.
Yeah, he just didn't think that long about how many bottles of mead he had left.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I was convincing enough to kick him off the show anyway. Anyway, I've got a Terrapin Depth Perception.
Oh, they're double. Or is that a triple?
They're pretty Imperial IPA. So,
okay.
I don't know. Pretty good. We're all about IPAs, I guess, with Jake off the show. Nobody here to talk smack about them.
No, there's
oh, well, never mind. All right, let me add Nick back in. Hopefully, no delay now. I think you're still on a delay, I think, Nick. I saw your mouth move. I didn't hear anything. Although your video looks smooth.
It's not
so
working.
I don't know. No. I think it's good now.
We're good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. I was definitely getting a delay too. So
yeah. All right. So let's get into the tariff talk. So this has been, a breaking, evolving story, I guess. A lot has happened in the last few days. Started out with Liberation Day, I guess, on April 2nd, was it? So I guess that's the new holiday where, government smacks tariffs on everybody. And then we had reciprocal tariffs, I guess. Everyone like, no, you, and punching back. And then stock market crash. And now a 90-day pause for everybody but China. And I think I'm caught up, but there may have been more even since then.
And the stock market rebounded.
Somewhat. Yeah, it's almost there. But let's see here what Trump had to say about why this pause happened.
Pause put in on the tariffs. Can you walk us through your thinking about why you decided to put a 90-day pause?
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, they were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions, because we have a big job.
That's it. I just wanted to play that, the reason for the stock market taking a crap and then coming back like somebody, waved Quaaludes and Coke in front of its nose is that people were yippy and afraid and jumping a little bit. So,
well, it turns out people don't really like being liberated from low consumer prices.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is one of those things where I feel like for the first time ever, maybe the left and the right, maybe not the MAGA right, but people have been in agreement that tariffs are kind of a terrible idea. And normally you don't see the left, on the correct side of economics, but they happen to be this time because it's against Trump.
I mean, it's absolutely crazy watching all of these lefties morph into free marketers. Yeah. It's like all of them have suddenly read the economy in one lesson. It's like I see billboards driving around literally in huge letters saying tariffs are a tax on the working class. It's like, wow, these big money donors finally have something good to say on their billboards.
Yeah.
So I'm not totally opposed to the concept of tariffs, but get out of my paycheck either first or simultaneously. Because ultimately, that's that's the form of taxation I agree with, is the voluntary taxation at the point of sale.
That's not voluntary, dog.
It is voluntary. You don't have to buy the stuff.
You can make it in your basement.
There you go. Get out of my mortgage payment. Get out of my mortgage payment. Get out of my paycheck, and let me decide how much taxes I want to pay by how much I consume. That's the taxation I agree with. But the problem with the tariffs right now is stuff's getting more expensive, and you haven't gotten out of my paycheck.
I mean, by that definition of voluntary, you don't have to own a house. You don't have to work. You could avoid those taxes just the same as you could avoid tariffs by not buying stuff.
Yeah, but I don't really have a say-so in whether or not my property taxes go up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not saying that that's a practical solution.
Yeah.
But I don't think tariffs are, I agree with Zane. They're not voluntary. We should be able to buy stuff across borders, and that's between me and whoever's selling it.
Amen. Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm just saying, for the overall scheme of taxation, tariffs sound like the best way to do something like that.
Yeah.
So I would agree.
At the point of sale.
It is true that sales taxes in general, including tariffs, are a lot less distortionary than income and property taxes. So if we have to have taxes, then I agree it would be best to have tariffs or other sales taxes. And actually, when Trump says, we used to fund the entire government through tariffs, that is true. But only insofar as the founding fathers realized that tariffs were really the best way of collecting the small amount of money they needed. It's not like they thought that tariffs were super awesome and we've got to stimulate domestic production with tariffs. I mean, some of them thought that. Alexander Hamilton definitely thought that, which is one of the reasons why I don't like him. But most of the people that supported tariffs, like in the 1790s, were thinking, well, we've got to fund the government somehow. And the only practical way of doing it is by collecting tariffs.
Or selling stamps.
Yeah. And they didn't have $1 trillion Defense Department budgets back then.
Right. Yeah, we used to actually have a budget, which we haven't really had since Newt Gingrich was Speaker of the House and Bill Clinton was president. That was the last time Congress passed a budget. It's all been continuing resolutions for the last 30 years.
Yeah. So anyway, feel free to catch me up if there was anything that happened in the last day that I'm not familiar with. But we saw stock market. This is after it crashed, but stock market post third biggest gain in post World War II history on Trump's tariff about face. And then
you kind of got to look at the stock market and realize how much bullshit it is that the tariffs is going to make it crash like that, and then we're going to pause it. And then shoots right back up. I mean,
that screams market manipulation. So it's the FUD, through all the news, all the mainstream news is talking about what kind of destruction this is going to wreak upon the economy, even though they weren't even in place yet. It was all preemptive. You see guys like
the stock market is completely future looking. It's forward looking. So you should expect it to react to news before anything actually happens. That's how it works.
Right. But also, I mean, it's just the fact that we're looking at it based off of what the stock market says, but also, you look at the underlying fundamentals of the stock market, price to earning ratios of some of the, main companies there are just completely out of whack with what they've been historically. Prices are overinflated, which is, larger underlying economic issues there. Everyone parking their retirement savings in, quote unquote investments in the S&P 500. And we've covered that before, kind of how, when everyone's buying the same stuff because everyone's 401k is invested in the same stuff, and all the, pension funds and whatever else are invested in the same stuff. It's just everyone's money going in kind of drives these things up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard an interesting stat earlier this week that, back in the 40s and the 50s, just kind of put things in perspective here. Because first and foremost, let's all agree that the stock market is not an indicator of the health of the economy. That's the media tries to throw that in our face for the last, 20 something years. And the stock market, I mean, it's one indicator, but it's not the indicator. That's the one everyone throws around. Oh, well, the Dow Jones is down, so we're in the crapper. That's not always the case. I mean, as you can see right now, like even the day that the Dow Jones earlier this week, the Dow Jones lost like 1,500 points in one day. The dollar was doing just fine, and then you look at the price of a barrel of oil is down to almost $60 a barrel. We hadn't been down there since 2012. So
bond yields were taken off like crazy under this, which I think is probably the opposite of what most people expected.
Right. The yield curve, so that's always, one tell when you have the inverted yield curve, when you have the, Zane, correct me if I'm wrong here, what is it, like the 10-year treasury bonds, when they pay less than the 20 years, like that's
it's a yield curve inversion is when the shorter duration interest rates are higher than the long duration rates, because the typical structure. So I guess back up for our listeners, I'm going to try so hard to make the concept of the yield curve be interesting to you. But so when you go into the bond market, there are different bonds of different maturities. So lengths of times that they'll pay you interest until you get your money back. So
bills, notes, bonds.
Okay, fair enough. So there are some debt instruments that have a maturity of 1 year, some of 2 years, some of 5 years, out to 20 and 30 years. And usually people think that to have your money tied up in 20 and 30-year bonds is riskier than having it only tied up in 1 or 2 year bonds because they mature faster. And so to be compensated for that extra risk, the yield or the interest rate being paid on the longer term bonds will be higher. But when you have a yield curve inversion, the long-term rates actually are lower because at least if you buy that bond right now, you're locking in that interest rate essentially for the next 30 years. And if you think that we're about to go into a recession and that interest rates are about to go down to near zero, you might not want to buy a 1 year bond, because then in a year you'd get your money back and you'd only be able to reinvest your money at 0.01% interest, and that's not what you want. So you actually, if to be induced to only buy a bond of a term of only 1 year, you've got to actually get a higher rate because of the risk of having to reinvest at a very low rate, which is a conceptual reason why people see a yield curve inversion and think that that's a sign of an impending recession, because it means that investors are hesitant to get their money back in the near future.
There you go. So back to what I was saying though, one interesting stat that I heard earlier this week was, so you look at the S&P, because that's always been like the metric of any of your long-term retirement investments. How is the S&P performing over time? It's not how did it perform this week, it's how did it perform this decade, right? So in the 50s and the 60s, you had to work an average of 5 hours to get, using the average annual income of the whole country, you had to work 5 hours to afford one share of the S&P. Whereas today, for the average income of the whole country, you have to work like 160 hours. So, there's many reasons for that, but overall, the market could use a little bit of a haircut. Some of these numbers aren't real. I mean, they're obviously inflated, and especially when you see the big ballers like Warren Buffett pulling out of their major Mag 7 positions just 6 months ago, they see the writing on the wall. They know what's coming. They're in on these policy meetings. They know what the effect is going to be. So, Warren Buffett pulled out. He sold all of his Bank of America, and he sold half of his Apple stock back in like November. He knew what was going to happen.
I like what Delta Fish has to say. Tariffs are preferable to income tax for privacy and other reasons, but we ain't getting rid of the income tax. We're going to have both.
Yeah, this was the old bait and switch where they said, oh, we'll replace the income tax with tariffs. And it's like, first of all, the only way you could possibly do that is if you cut the budget by 90%, which you're not going to do. But then to actually convince me you even want to do that, you've got to cut the income tax first. You can't bring the tariffs on now and say, oh, well, maybe we'll reduce the income tax by 0.1% later. That's a net increase in taxes.
Didn't Ron Paul even kind of advocate for tariffs at the same time, though, that he's advocating for going back to, no income tax, super small government. And if we're going to fund a government at all, it would be through tariffs, not, let's also do that on top, or, let's do it and then have some vague promises down the road that, trust me, baby, it'll get better.
This is absolutely one of those cases where order of operations really matters, because the math for us, the consumer, really sucks in this order of operation when you do the tariffs first and the reducing the taxation later. But I mean, I just put a story in our private chat right before the show. Apparently the Doge stuff is taking effect because between February and March, they've cut the budget deficit in half.
Holy cow.
The March numbers for the federal deficit. So in February, our deficit was $307 billion, and our deficit for March is only $161 billion.
Well, that's a start.
And they're directly citing laying off federal employees, reducing the payroll, reducing projected payroll, canceling leases, canceling contracts, cutting this off, cutting that off. It's starting to happen.
In other economic indicator news that went along with this, we saw the Bitcoin decoupling, which was pretty interesting and a good sign for the future.
Decoupling from what?
From the overall market. So Bitcoin has often tracked with the stock market. Market's up, Bitcoin's up, market's down, Bitcoin's down. You'll usually see a wider swing. But as everything was crashing from this, Bitcoin was up. And so that was going a lot on Bitcoin Twitter saying, hey, look at this decoupling. And I think as we saw that the bond deals were spiking, and there's been speculation that some of these tariff moves are a play to try to drive bond yields down, because my understanding is the Biden administration, Janet Yellen, Treasury, was rolling over a lot of the longer term debt into short term debt at the higher interest rates we're seeing now, and part of the play was to try to drive it down and drive down the yields there, and that way you could refinance and knock down the debt payments a little bit. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've seen some speculation that's part of what's going on with it. And so we're seeing bond prices, bond yields up. We're seeing stock market down, and we're seeing and we saw Bitcoin actually rising. So that's saying that people are starting to see Bitcoin kind of as a safe haven to the roller coaster that is the dollar.
Yep, and you got gold at 3,200 an ounce right now, and it looks like I was right a little over a month ago when I said the floor for Bitcoin is 77 grand. I think it dipped into the 76s for like 6 hours, and now we're back up at almost 80.
So I remember back when, the Bitcoin and stock market, when Bitcoin and the stock market would crash sort of at the same time, people would say, okay, that's, people selling their Bitcoin to cover their losses in the stock market. Was that just pure cope, Nick?
Well, I think you're getting a lot of the same market trading mechanisms that go on, and a lot of the same, there's people who are, there's rules to trading, right? The traders kind of have these rules. They have these indicators, and so you're seeing you're seeing the traders trading at trading along these rules to market sentiment, and they're trading it like any other asset. You buy, you sell. I don't necessarily think it's them selling it to cover other stuff. There's a lot of people who do leverage up on their Bitcoin, take the Bitcoin you buy, and then just buy even more on leverage, which exacerbates any crashes. But I don't know if that might be some. I mean, what I'm saying is we've seen it performing kind of along the lines of the market, kind of higher highs than the market and lower lows than the market, but overall it's kind of tracked with it. And with this, we kind of saw in a real life stress test on it that Bitcoin went up as the markets went down. So
and then Nick, you hit on this a little bit, but I mean, are we wrong to be here talking about, the economics of tariffs being bad or preferable or not preferable when there's just saying this was all a strategy? This was 5D chess. This was a bargaining chip. And, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, I think. Yeah, Treasury Secretary says the tariffs was Trump's strategy all along. So are we buying that at all? Anybody? Go ahead and take that. Go ahead, Nick.
I don't think it's I think it's possible. I think that there's I think everyone understands that economically the right answer is tariffs are bad, right? I mean that's the basic pure simple economic thing. That's pure simple economics, and the libertarian answer
so is
on this.
The minimum wage, and like people don't understand that.
Right.
Yeah, I know. But I have to, I'd have to think that there's potential other things. I have a feeling that there is the feeling coming from the Trump administration that tariffs are a tool, and that what he's doing is kind of playing, I guess the foreign policy game through tariffs. There's the domestic and economic policy, which is one thing, and then there's the foreign policy aspect of it. And so, you do have countries working around you do have countries that work around whatever tariffs exist on them. China might send stuff to Vietnam to then come through, or things go to Canada and come down and try to kind of get around that. And so, I think some of this is a game where he's saying we're seeing this, and the idea and concept of retaliatory tariffs, like oh, okay, you're doing this, and now they didn't end up matching the tariffs. This country has these tariffs, and so we're afraid they ended up doing something a little bit more out there, and kind of calculating it off of, I believe it was off of trade deficits, which are another odd Keynesian concept.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that people apparently were able to back into the formula that they used to come up with the tariff rate on all the countries? Because when Trump unveiled that list of tariff rates, it was all these different numbers for every single country, and they seemed at first to be pretty random. But then a bunch of people online were like, oh, we figured out it's actually a simple formula that they plugged it in, and then it spat out the tariff rates on all these countries, and it's to do with the trade deficit and other things. But I would really like it to be the case that the tariff talk really is just 5D chess. And in the early days of the Trump administration, when he was kind of playing chicken with Canada and Mexico, threatening the tariffs and then taking them off and then threatening them again, I kind of
early days of last month.
I did clarify, I think, very early. So it kind of seemed like that was the direction that they were going. But, Trump is the same guy that went on Rogan and said that tariffs are the most beautiful word in the English language. And so you've got to take that seriously. I think there is an ideological commitment here to some extent. And also, Nick, I don't know if you're aware of this, but a lot of Trump's economic advisors have been involved writing, academic papers on what's called the optimal tariff rate, and this is real economics. It's not like MMT Keynesian BS, but they kind of worked out that if you're a huge country and everybody wants to sell to you, then you can set the tariff rate in such a way that it's really the producers that are paying the bulk of the price increase caused by the tariff. Because the simplification of tariffs being just a tax on the consumer isn't quite right, because it's all has to do with the price elasticity, where if consumers would be really sensitive to a price increase and would stop buying a lot of what they're buying now if the price went up, then the producers are going to have to eat most of the tariff rate. But if consumers are going to keep buying it regardless of the price, then that's when it would mostly fall on the consumer. But what this optimal tariff literature points out is that if you're a massive country and everybody wants to sell to you, that pretty much means that all your consumers, you can think of them all having a high price elasticity, which means that they are actually not the ones that will have to pay the bulk of the increase caused by the tariff. Now, I would still say in that case that tariffs are bad because you're screwing over all of the foreign producers. And I still think it's bad to steal money from people, even if they don't live in the United States. But that's at least where they're coming from. It's not total economic sophism.
Yeah, and I agree with Delta Fish on this one too. The strategy, if there is one, is economic chaos. So, there's two possible outcomes here. This is one of them, and I think this is the simplest explanation for me to believe, especially just given Trump and his history. As a businessman in general, it's one of those where this could be a feint where he's just, because BRICS was about to pull the plug on the dollar. We were talking about it last summer. They had the meetings, they had the gold. They had enough people, enough government power that, it was over half the planet was going to pull the plug on the dollar this year if we didn't quit screwing around. So what he's doing here, with the tariff threat, is he's figuring out who all of a sudden has these alliances. Where is this? Who's really our allies? Who's not? That kind of thing. Who's really willing to do business? And you can just sit back and watch. All you have to do is make the big press announcement like he did. Hold up your chart, announce the rates, and then in come the phone calls, because it was something like 90 countries called him that day. And now you're finding out, the Mag 7, how they're getting around this. I'm seeing stories this week. Microsoft had plans for like $100 billion worth of data centers here in the country in the next 5 years. They just canceled half of them.
Now those are going to be AI data centers. I don't know.
Right. But now it's Saudi money building the same data centers.
That's true. It's not like it's not going to happen.
The money's still coming in. Like they're still going to go up. It's just not going to be a Microsoft data center.
Oh, they were going to They were going to recommission one of the 3 Mile Island reactors to power a Microsoft data center.
Wow. I think one of them was going to be put here in Lithia Springs. I had heard,
yes.
And then we just brought online Plant Vogel. Was it like 2 more reactors?
Yeah.
And energy prices are still insane because of all the AI and stuff going in here.
Well, and you Douglas County folks cracked the code on this one. This is how you push back, because it's not, environmental concerns is one thing, that gets you only so far. But, to say the data center is going to be light pollution, or it's going to be traffic, or it's going to be noisy, all of that is crap. It does none of those things.
Right.
Highly proven, especially with, Lithia Springs, where there's already 7. Because a lot of the folks were, it's going to be noisy. It's going to create so much traffic. And they're like, well, did you notice the other 5 just a mile from you?
Yeah.
It's like 10 people work there. It's not going to be traffic.
Yeah, right.
I've been into data centers in downtown Atlanta that I had no idea were there before I had to go there for a job.
Right. So, but Douglas County, this latest thing was the power bill. Hey, every time you guys build one, my power bill goes up, and I can prove that. I've got the receipts. And then they're like, okay, let's pause this. Now Douglas County's like, hey, no data centers for the next 2 years while we figure out what to do with our grid.
Yeah.
So, now it's coming down to the south side. Spalding, Butts, Newton County, they're all getting.
They actually just knocked down a coal burner in Pennsylvania to replace it with a natural gas burner to power data centers.
Yeah.
Exclusively.
Yeah, they are extremely power hungry, especially the ones that are completely run by AI. Those are the ones that really burn it, because they've got to plug the AI into the power grid.
Yeah,
and then it allocates power. And guess what it gives power to first? Oh,
AI.
Yeah, right.
Well, it also seems like we've seen an acceleration and just throwing caution to the wind after this whole. I think it was DeepSeek out of China came out, because apparently they were able to do better for less resources. And everybody's just like, oh, crap. China is going to smoke us. And, there's always this keeping up with the Joneses fallacy that like, if they're doing it, we have to do it better. So now it's just like, slamming the pedal to the ground on AI. Who cares, if we're making everybody's energy bills more expensive?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Now,
and you're gonna see more of it. You're gonna see more and more industry disruption. I mean, it's already coming for the realtors. It's already coming for the legal profession.
Writers, artists.
Yeah, and the guest we had last week, with Zara Medical, the founder there. She's talking. There's AI applications already in the works for healthcare.
She's not one of them, but as upset as some doctors get when you Google stuff and learn, imagine how upset they're going to be when you've had, hours long research sessions and chats with AI and have learned all about whatever disease it is that maybe your doctor heard about one time in medical school. So
my wife's got a friend that she has heart-to-heart conversations with ChatGPT, and it gives her like legit advice.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's scary. It's like, I'm here for you. If you need anything else, let me know. And I'm like, gross.
I want to ask about this because I've had friends tell me that they get into these long, drawn-out conversations with ChatGPT, and I'm always like, whenever I've used ChatGPT, it tells me that gallium melts at room temperature. I've yet to have an interaction with a chatbot where it produced information that was substantially higher quality than what I could have gotten just by Googling it the regular way, unless it's a very specific task that I want it to do. There was one time where I was wanted to get a route through a certain national park and wanted to start in one city and end in another city. And you know how these parks are, where there's roads and different things to see all over the place, and it's hard to even know where to enter or exit. And it was very good at doing that. And this is my general experience with AI, where if you have a pretty well-defined task for it to do, it can do that very well. But in terms of just producing information, I just feel like you're literally just taking the top 5 search results and summarizing it in a way that's right about 80% of the time.
Well, I'm not sure that its main feature or the main appeal is finding information, because you're right, that is out there and you can find it through the second result in Google or Wikipedia or whatever. But it is really good for planning, and you can brain dump on ChatGPT and it'll put things into a format that's way easier for you to kind of understand and be like, oh yeah, that is what I was trying to say, but I just brain dumped on you. I've used it for a lot of writing, and especially for my company where I'm trying to do SEO, and I know almost nothing about that. And now I have it to where it's I have my little ChatGPT tab that is almost doing it exactly how I want it done. And it can produce the biggest blog post you've ever seen in your life that is exactly up to my specifications within a few prompts.
Yeah.
So things like that, it's not really that it's doing something that a human couldn't do, or that maybe even I couldn't do with enough time, but it's doing it in 3 seconds when it might have taken me, the next 8 months of studying to get to where, we've kind of planned and gotten to. Yeah.
I have plenty of friends that, it buys their groceries. It writes meal plans for the family. They give it the budget. They tell me how many people are in the house and what type of food they like. And then
you can get a recipe without hearing the person's life story first.
That's exactly right. Oh my God. Yeah. And it'll give you recipes. It'll give you the meal plan. It'll even order the groceries for you if you tell it what stores you want to use. But so, it's coming, we're not going to stop that. It's just like what Elon Musk was saying on Rogan, 2-3 years ago. It's what are you going to do with the extra time it buys you? Are you going to use it to consume and be a glutton and sit on the couch and just watch movies and eat better food or more food or something like that? Or are you actually going to get up and help yourself, help your family, help your neighborhood? What are you going to do with this free time? You're going to see that dichotomy really come into play over the next 5 years in particular, as it disrupts specific industries. People that get replaced by AI now. The Spartanburg, South Carolina BMW plant is using humanoid robots on the line. Of course, I can't think of being a person in more of a worthless position than putting blinkers on a BMW, but they've actually replaced those people now. It's with a robot.
So the curious thing about speculating on, how are we going to spend all this extra time, is that that's true in aggregate. Like even compared to the 1970s, people work a substantially fewer number of hours per week on average because of how much stuff got automated by computers and certain other things. However, when we're talking about individual instances of people losing their job to AI, and I need to be very clear, I'm not calling for a ban on AI to prevent people from losing their jobs, because it's a transformation just like every other technological transformation. When we got spinning jennies, flying jennies in the 1700s, a lot of people in the textile industry lost their jobs and were upset about it. But now everybody gets cheap, high quality clothes, and all those people that had been in that industry now can do a different job that's a lot more productive. So I want to be very clear. I'm not calling for a ban on AI because it'll take people's jobs. However, if an individual person loses their job to AI, they can't just immediately pivot into doing community service full time because they personally are now saving 40 hours per week. They personally are unemployed and have to find a new job.
Good thing AI can teach them how to code.
Yeah, right. Well, exactly. Well, I'm talking about let's say you're
you don't need to learn anymore. It's all vibe coding now.
Yeah, right. Let's say you're 40 something, you still live in mom's basement, and half of your paycheck in your AI replaceable job has been investing into AI stocks. So when you do get replaced, you can just live off the dividends. What are you going to do with the extra time then? But most people that aren't being replaced or disrupted, AI can and will buy you some time. And then not only that, but if you're not using it to buy yourself more time, you're going to get left behind. You're going to be irrelevant.
Yeah. Like Delta Fish here says, how many years until the human species is physiologically unable to create a marketing plan? And I get that. And I think there will be, some atrophy in our skills or our reasoning or whatever it is because we're relying on AI too much. But at the same time, like AI has allowed me to execute a lot harder than I would have been able to on my own. It's like I have a team of people at my beckon and call where, maybe years ago I could have created that marketing plan, then I could have sort of put it into practice, but now like you can really put it into practice. Right. So I don't know. It's almost like, maybe that some skills will atrophy, but I'm also experiencing what it's like to go to like step 2, 3, and 4 when before I would have needed some capital behind me and a team and all sorts of stuff. And now I'm just doing it at home.
Well, and you're doing it to hone your craft and make yourself better. And you're still, pushing the boundaries on that. How many people are not going to do that is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you have a very different experience than me, because my experience with AI so far, and maybe this is just because I'm too picky, but I always think, well, by the time I give enough information to the chatbot so that it can do what I want, then I may as well have just done it myself anyway. Because like a lot of people say that they use ChatGPT to write emails. Yeah. And it's like, by the time I tell you exactly how I want you to write the email, I'll have written the email already. So why do I even use the chatbot?
Yeah.
This is probably me being...
I'll just say that some people, myself included, are better editors than we are writing from scratch. So if, I don't really use ChatGPT to write emails either. That's pretty simple. But if there's ever something I'm like really struggling with, like, how do I put this? I'll have it spit something out. Then I'll be like, no, that's stupid. I would do it this way. And it's like I edit its work, and then I'm like, all right, that's what I wanted from the beginning. I just, for some reason, couldn't put the pen to paper and get started.
I'm also very concerned, and maybe very concerned is overstatement, but I am very weary of the proliferation of AI blog posts and other content that can get passed off as being not AI, but it actually is. Because something just feels wrong to me about, like, when I read something, I feel like I, in a certain way, have a personal connection with the person that wrote it. But it's like, with the AI generated content, it's like you expect me to take the time to read this and you couldn't even be bothered to write it yourself. You just had why is it even worth me reading if you couldn't even be bothered to write it?
Or what cracks me up, and the real tell here is like, so a significant event like just happens. So UFC pay-per-view, was it 314 coming up this weekend? Within minutes of the final fight decision, you're going to see dozens of articles, and they're going to be pages long. There's no way a human wrote that. Yeah, like it's just there's no way. And then you read through it, and it sounds like you're talking to the guy at the 7-Eleven. He's not conjugating properly. There's a few words here and there that just don't fit. And it's like you didn't even edit this. You just told it to go because you want to be the first with the article. Yeah, you're just trying to get the clicks.
I mean, I'll push back a little bit there on Zane. Like, do you read books that are ghost written?
I mean, I guess I don't have a way of really knowing.
Tom Clancy, Stephen King.
No.
I mean, Michael Malice is a ghostwriter. Like, we love him, I guess. But
I think ghostwriting is different because it's still a human being spending their time on it. Whereas if you're just
churning now, you're just being AI
slop. Yeah, I am. If it's showing me particular information that I just need to get, and I don't want to enjoy the experience of reading something, I just need to get the information as fast as possible. I agree, AI is good for that. But if I'm like sitting down to read an article or like read a book, there's something about that experience that I would lose something subjectively if I knew that there wasn't another human person on the other end that wrote it for me to read.
Yeah. I think the difference is slop versus something that's crafted. So you can craft something with AI and end up with a good product. Or, just like with a ghostwriter, I could be like, oh, whatever, your first draft's fine. I don't need to proofread it. I'm sure, let's just put it out. And that would be garbage too.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's just like any major figure and their autobiography, Yeah. You didn't sit down and write a 400-page book. You get out of here. No way. For your first book, it's 400 pages, annotated. No way.
I mean, it's almost the same thing where it's like that person just stood around, paced, and, drank a beer and vaped while brain dumping on a ghostwriter. And that ghostwriter is like, no, I got you. I know how to make this into a book. And that's what AI is doing too.
Dear God, if you hear this, please let George Martin do exactly that.
Seriously.
Finish your saga.
We got dire wolves before we got the winds of winter.
Yeah.
That's where we're at right now. We got dire wolves before we got the winds of winter.
Yeah. All right. This has
so
been
one more thing I want to say
ahead.
is, the other outcome is that Trump, being the limber businessman that he is, I mean, yes, he's pushing 80 years old, but you don't get to the level of business he attained and not know how to make corrections as you go. So maybe he started on one path that looked like the path to go. He started to see his desired outcome manifest, and then he pivoted because that's what he does, is because he can pivot faster than everyone else at the negotiating table. He maintains the upper hand that way because he's keeping everybody else off balance. Now, good or bad, there's some bad to go with that, but as he's, swerving down the highway, changing directions, he's ultimately getting where he wants to go.
I can also pivot faster than everybody else in the room, but only because of my swivel chair.
I have a swivel chair too, so you can't pivot faster than me. But
I mean, Keir Starmer just announced globalization is dead.
Well, Keir
Starmer also announced that he's doubling down on net zero. So,
well, but for the UK Prime Minister to say that globalization is dead, hey man, that sounds like the pendulum swinging in the right direction to me.
So.
No, I want globalization minus Keir Starmer. That's what I want.
Well, and we've got 50 nations calling us day and night wanting free trade.
Well, let's hope that works out.
Last word to Nick.
One last thing to say on this. And I was going to review this stuff before the show, but unfortunately my phone was out of commission all day. Long story there. It works now. But there were two podcasts that I've listened to in the past week or past couple of days that I think kind of provided at least a different, more interesting perspective on this. One, Jack Spirko on the Survival podcast did one called like Trump's trade war or something just the other day, and he kind of breaks down, okay, when we step outside of it from the purely tariffs bad perspective, what aspects does this actually fix? What does this actually do? What's the what could kind of be the strategy or the downstream effects of this that are positive? Not justifying or saying these are good things, but what is the reasoning behind it? And so I found that interesting. And then I posted this in the Discord. So if you're not in the Discord, go ahead and join the Dollar Media Club and get on in the Discord. But Marty Bent from TFTC also did an episode with Tom Luongo, kind of breaking this down. And I know I mentioned Luongo a couple weeks back, and he has a bit of an outside theory for someone who's generally in our camp on just about everything. He's kind of got this outside perspective on, well, yeah, Fed bad, but right now Fed might be doing good kind of thing. And he kind of broke down, hey, he kind of also had his own takes on, hey, here's how this stuff is actually a good thing and how it's going to improve. And they could be wrong, they could have their perspectives could be out there, but I think there's at least something interesting and something most people who are looking at things from a generally libertarian perspective, Fed bad, of course Fed bad, but taking a look at kind of these alternate perspectives on it coming from people within our camp, and saying, how does this increase prosperity in the long run? And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But I highly recommend everyone take a listen to those and at least see what you think on it.
Cool. I love Jack Spirko.
Yeah.
But
right.
We got to move to the anti Zane topic now of UFOs. So the TicTac is back. Let's watch this real quick.
Now, quick refresh about why this area matters so much. 2004, we've all seen this video that was showing what was described by Navy pilots flying off the USS Nimitz as a white TicTac that was zooming around in ways and speeds they just could not explain. In 2019, sailors on the USS Russell, again, off the coast of San Diego, seeing what they described in night vision goggles as upside down pyramids. And then brings us to today, this new infrared video just released by documentary filmmaker Jeremy Corbell, showing what he says was an incident on the USS Jackson. It's one of these littoral ships, one of the highest tech ships that we have in our arsenal. And according to Corbell, Navy sailors were actively tracking one of 4 unknown objects observed going in and out of the water. No heat plumes, no exhaust, nothing. And here is how one of the witnesses on board the ship described.
All right. So, Steven, have you heard about this at all?
I have not. Well, I mean, not the latest sighting from the USS Jackson.
I'll play the video real quick while you talk too. There's no real sound to it here, so
okay.
Feel free to talk over it.
I mean, there's some prevailing thoughts here, and this goes to the drone thing, the drone scare in New Jersey. You've got the mysterious swirls over in Eastern Europe that have been seen for the last 10, 15 years. Stuff's coming around here and there. I forget who the whistleblower was, but somebody was saying that some of these are being launched from Chinese aircraft carriers. I mean, one thing we do know is, and Dr. Stephen Greer talks about this too, and I mean, of all the people that is in that sphere, I think Dr. Stephen Greer is the one that is the most convicted, and really, when he starts giving off information, he's the easiest to verify some of this stuff.
He's also highly controversial.
He is really controversial, yeah. Because I mean, ultimately, he wants the 0 point energy to be free. He wants to totally, hey, let's do away with all the oil companies. He wants to just upend everything globally all at once, and doesn't care for all the turmoil because he thinks love will prevail. That kind of stuff. But when he's talking about the tech that exists, it's easier to track his stuff than anyone else, really. I mean, so let's just assume for a second that, all right, we've had anti-gravity drives to some degree, whatever they're called now, gravitic propulsion, whatever it is. There's declassified documents talking about this. There's stuff at the patent office. The U.S. Air Force has filed patents. The TR-3B has a patent. Who's the guy? Greenwald with the blackvault.com. So that's what he does, is he gets these declassified things and posts it all up on his big database. And he doesn't really make opinions on one way or another. He just, here's the documents, here's what just got released. And that was how we heard about the TR-3B, because that was in the big dump that Obama declassified. And that's the triangular shaped craft that has that circular light at the bottom of it. There's a patent that's owned by the U.S. Air Force, and it has, gravitic propulsion, whatever you want to call it these days, but it's, it's anti-gravity. So to assume that we're the only country that has that, because what's our most advanced aircraft? Well, the SR-72, but before that it was the SR-71. The SR-72 was just announced, a couple of years ago. The SR-71 reigned supreme in the skies for 80 years. Are we supposed to believe that? In 80 years, we went from horse and buggy to men on the moon, if you believe that story, to flying in space, at least, low Earth orbit. That's provable. And in that same time frame, we couldn't build a superior aircraft. It just doesn't seem real to me. So are there breakaway civilizations? Is there, a subsect of hidden technology? One thing we know for sure, the government and the military, they do have higher levels of technology for decades before they release it to the general public.
Right.
Cell phone technology goes back to Vietnam era at the very least, if not before that. We were building cell phone towers in Vietnam, and that was, the guys had the backpacks, and that's how they were communicating. And
Zach Morris phones.
Right. And for commercial application, we didn't have cell phones until the mid 80s or early 80s.
And you're just seeing satellite technology coming into your regular cell phone. The newer phones, you can at least send emergency text through the Starlink network, while
absolutely.
I remember
technology has been out of the hands of most average people for a while.
I remember once in the early 90s, we were at an Arby's and my brother ate something stupid, and my mom wanted to call poison control, and some guy had a cell phone. It was the first time we'd ever seen one in our lives, and she called poison control. Turns out everything was okay, but we were like, wow, that must be a businessman and a millionaire. He had a cell phone. Dealer. Never even heard of that.
I remember my dad's first cell phone, and he didn't even use. So he was involved with the volunteer fire company in the city, going back a ways, and then he kind of stepped into the local emergency management coordinator role for it. So he had a city issued cell phone for this volunteer position, and it was literally in a zip up binder case in the center console of his truck, and you'd have to pull it out and unzip it and put the thing up and answer, and then they replaced that with one. And so he almost never used that thing. I only saw it used it a couple of times. Then he got one of those Nokia ones, and that was the next step. And then he kind of got out of it, and then regular cell phones there.
The Nokia phones were the height. That was the best.
Oh yeah, the 3390. Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
Delta Fish again says that imagery from our high-tech naval vessel, get a color video and I'll watch it. And I agree. First, that wasn't FLIR. That was in forward-looking infrared. But
well, just to start one, I'm gonna pick apart the concept that he said the USS Jackson, the littoral combat ship, and saying that it's highly tech driven. Those things are trash. They had to cancel the program after building only a couple and dumping untold billions into that program because they're absolutely useless. Now, maybe the tech on them's good. I can't tell you, but I know those ships, that whole program got scrapped overall because after building maybe 3 or 4 of them of something that was supposed to be 20 or so, because they were completely trash and didn't do anything. They didn't have the right capabilities. So there's that, and I know that the video came from Jeremy Corbell, who I'm familiar with, and he can be somewhat controversial, but I've seen some of his documentaries before. He's done some on like one that's coming to mind is like implants in people. I think I bought that documentary from him on Amazon at one point. So, he is a highly well-known documentary filmmaker in this space. So it's not coming from a nobody, but I know he can be somewhat controversial too.
Yeah. So let's watch here. Speaking of Jeremy Corbell, he had a podcast where he has somebody on who he claims was on the ship. So let me share that real quick and let's hear what this person has to say.
The following is a witness interview of the USS Jackson UAP encounter.
We only see lights because it's at nighttime. It's always at nighttime. But to see the lights emerging from water. So I go out to the bridge wing. I'm noticing
this guy kind of sounds like AI
on the horizon and
the
like city lights or
did.
any other that are out there. So seeing a light that is lifting up, you can see it. I know the difference between a light on the horizon coming up and a light coming out of the water. When you've been on the water more in your life than you haven't been, you know the difference. This thing was coming up. I wasn't shocked that I was seeing it. I was shocked I was sharing the experience. Us looking at the same exact display of Sapphire, but when we start talking about all of the objects, all 4 objects.
I don't know what he means by Sapphire.
Was all 4 of them, all in synchronous, jetting off into the abyss. All 4, all timed together, and all left. And we were like, holy shit. They were all, maybe the second they left, maybe 3-4 seconds pass, I run to my station and I look at my radar and they're all gone. They're all off radar. And I was like, that's it. They all zoomed off. But it's clear that they're in communication with one another and synchronized, like 3, 2, 1 countdown, let's all go type thing, unless there's some level of like one entity is controlling all 4 and then they all leave at the same time. But yeah, they all left exactly at the same time.
And that's
all right. Anybody want to take that? Got a comment?
So one thing I'd like to know, what on that video were those bright flashes? Like you saw like individual white dots pop up?
I feel like that might have been some sort of tracking, but I don't know.
They were popping up like initially they were popping up right where the object was. But the hard part to think about this is like we're not trained to look at what this actually is. So we see a black thing moving here. And I mean it's moving in an erratic pattern that wouldn't be explainable. I mean, one, the shape of it isn't consistent with anything we have, but it's also moving in ways that's inconsistent with any aircraft that we are publicly aware of. But you see those like dots pop up right on the black object there, but then they start popping up some other places outside of it. So I'm just kind of curious. It looks like initially you see that the camera there panned down to it is what it looked like, and now I don't have a frame of reference on whether this camera is panning at all to track on it or if the camera's still, I mean, I guess you can kind of see it move a little bit there.
And the one from what was it, 2009, I don't know, whatever, 2012, 2009, in the past there were jet fighter pilots who said they saw it visually too, I believe. And correct me if I'm wrong, Steven, but they even said like they saw it, they flew to another location and it was there already. Like they knew where they were going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wasn't there a whole Rogan episode with one of the pilots involved with that? I
think so.
Yeah. Well, and that's also where the term Foo Fighter came from. That was right. What the French pilots, that was what they called them.
No.
In World War II?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In World War II, but the Foo Fighter goes back a ways, a lot longer than the
absolutely.
Than the Nimitz incident.
I mean, the band goes back longer than the Nimitz incident.
Right.
But all right, here last little bit, details from weaponizedpodcast.com, so it's super legit, but I think this actually is maybe Jeremy Corbell's website. So we're going to the guy who broke this and is claiming all this. This is what he says. Details. 4 tic-tac-shaped UAPs observed, 2 tracked and 1 highlighted and obtained FLIR footage. And again, FLIR is forward-looking infrared. I think they also use that at Waco to see people inside the building and shoot them.
FLIR is very, very common. You get that on most like government helicopters and other aircraft. So most, because I did a previous job I had, I was doing what's it called, flight simulators, and one was an Army flight simulator, and I mean those were equipped with, it was an unarmed Army helicopter, and those had FLIR systems on it. So FLIR is very, very common stuff.
Yeah. It says craft detected by multiple reconnaissance platforms, including radar. No flight control surfaces or propulsion signatures, such as heat flumes or exhaust, were detected. Crafts were self-illuminated, and one was observed exiting the water directly into flight, exhibiting transmedium capacity. Let's see. All craft were observed in apparent coordinated, synchronized, and instantaneous departure, indicative of shared communication. Neither orbit nor destination were able to be determined. Origin. Sorry, not orbit. And then operator, purpose, capability, intent are unknown, and craft remain officially unidentified. And then we muted it during the video because you could barely hear this, but there's CIC operator 1 and 2, and then a little bit later 3 and 4 and 5. So there's about 5 people standing around talking. Someone says it's there, it's on there, but quick, scramble the jets. And it says in jest. You can tell the person's joking when they say that. And then they say, it wouldn't surprise me, I tell you. You call in the VBSS, which is Visit Board Search and Seizure Team. So again, it says in jest. So I guess they're just joking about it as they're seeing this thing. And then it says, is that new on phase 2? Yeah, that's at like 22,000 feet. That shit took off earlier. So I don't know how illuminating that was, but that's what people were saying while they were looking at this thing.
Yeah, so it's clear that I'm like that. These are guys that are trained to track aircraft or whatever, and they're looking at that going, "What the hell is that?" I don't know. Let's go board it. Just joking around. Like there's no way we're going to touch that. They know it. And I mean, just from the video we saw, it appeared to like respond to being tracked. Just like you're talking about with, the earlier Air Force pilots, that this thing's already there where they're going when they get there. It'll fly circles around them, it'll disappear, and then when they get to where they're going, it's there waiting on them. So it knows it's being tracked. It knows what you're tracking it with and how you track it, and it also knows where you're going. So it's obviously some kind of advanced tech. Is it aliens or is it just, another subsect of the government? Because, I mean, let's face it, guys, the Pentagon doesn't just lose $1 trillion in its couch cushions. It's going somewhere, right? Like they're spending it on something and they just don't want us to know what it is. And this $1 trillion that's gone missing has happened multiple times now. What would you do with $1 trillion? Like if you wanted to do like one thing, the best you could possibly do it, how far would you get with $1 trillion?
I'd throw a Rager.
Right. So, in weird stuff, what was it? Just the other day, this came out on April 1st, on the Confessionals podcast. Anyone who listens to that, it's a great one. He had on a former Air Force intelligence someone who was in Air Force intelligence who was seeing like these UAPs while deployed in the Middle East, and and kind of goes into detail on some of this. And one of the stories was like she saw something, and then like the CIA officer that was there, the CIA liaison, just like popped out and was like, "Yeah, don't write up any report on that or anything." So, I mean, there's weird stuff, and for some reason, it is covered up. But another piece of content to go consume. Now that full interview, there's part of it that's public and part of it that is behind the paywall. So you got to be a member to do it. And I highly recommend because I do quite enjoy that show.
But not until you've joined Dollar Media Club.
Yeah, we are much cheaper than the confessionals.
All right, Zane, you ready for trivia?
Yeah, you guys have had your fun. Now it's time.
Hey, you had that whole economic segment, so I don't want to hear it, but it is that time. All right, Zane, music.
Yeah, you can't forget the music. How do we play trivia without the music?
All right, everyone. Welcome to another week of Libations Trivia.
I'm going to grab my whiteboard while you explain this. 1 second.
As usual, we've got trivia in 3 rounds. Round 1 is 8 questions, 1 point each. Round 2 is 6 questions, 2 points each. Round 3 is 4 questions, 3 points each. If you're in the audience, drop your answer in the chat. 1 answer per person, and if any of you guys get it right, then the audience will get the point. I guess I should wait for Zach to reveal the categories.
Nah, he can go in without categories, or you can show us.
You can go ahead. Well, I still haven't found it, but you can go ahead.
All right. Round 1, just deserts. Round 2, just desserts. And round 3, a mystery category.
Oh, deserts, desserts, mystery. You always come up with the interesting ones, but I might be able to figure out deserts. I don't know if I know. Well, I don't know if I could do 10 questions worth of deserts. I don't know.
Good thing it's only 8 questions.
Still, I don't know how. I don't know if I could get that many deserts, but we're gonna see what we can do. Desserts. You're probably gonna pull off some weird desserts from out of nowhere, but we'll see where this goes. Zach's back, so I no longer have to feed it. But Steven, seems like you got a visitor.
Yes, I do. I have a kid that will not go to bed. So
calling in the reinforcements for trivia.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you have him play trivia with you?
He might be able to help me, honestly.
All right. Round 1, just deserts. The name of what desert comes from the Arabic word for desert? Oh, Jake's not here, so there's no one to shout out when there are 11 seconds left.
7 seconds.
Beat me to it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, Zane.
All right, Zach.
Sahara.
Steven.
Sahara.
Nick.
Same thing.
And the audience also says Sahara. This is the Sahara.
Yeah.
Is that where the name Sarah came from?
No.
No, that came from the Bible.
Well, maybe the Bible got it somewhere. I don't know.
The Bible came before Arabic.
Question 2. What desert in Southwest Africa is also the name of a chain of indoor water parks? There's some pots and pans audio coming from somewhere.
I'm guessing that's the kid that won't sleep.
Yep.
Man, indoor water parks.
Why would you name water parks after a place with no water?
Good question.
Funsies.
I guess.
Five seconds.
We need to get you like a little 30-second hourglass or something to keep track of time.
Zach.
Chuck E. Cheese.
Steven.
Great Wolf Lodge.
Nick.
Namibia.
So Steven is close in that he named the water park, and Nick is close in that he named the country that partially contains this desert, but this is the Kalahari.
Okay. I heard of that. I was hoping.
Question 3. The McMurdo Dry Valleys, which contain the driest locations on Earth, are located on what continent? All right, Zach.
Antarctica.
Steven.
Antarctica.
Nick.
Antarctica, which is next to the giant ice wall that prevents people from seeing the other side.
All right.
And the entrance to Inner Earth.
Exactly.
Audience also says Antarctica.
Which also has the highest per capita murder rate of any other continent.
Why? Because there was once one murder.
Yeah.
Did the audience get Kalahari or
no?
Okay, so we're all good still.
So do we tariff Antarctica too? Was that what the penguin joke was about?
There were territories, like Arctic territories of countries that were put on the tariff list.
Yeah, Lesotho was the one with. There's nothing but penguins there.
No,
Lesotho is located within South Africa.
Okay,
like it's.
I think the one that the audience brought up was Heard and McDonald Island, which is off the coast of Antarctica somewhere, I think. But
I mean, was there a tariff on Tristan da Cunha?
I don't know. I'd have to look at the big list.
That's the most remote inhabited island on the planet. It's what the only town in it's Edinburgh, the Seven Seas, and it's like a 2-week boat trip from South Africa to get there.
Wow.
All right. Question 4. What desert in northern Chile is the driest and non-polar desert on Earth? I tried to pick pictures of all these deserts that didn't just look exactly the same. Each desert is unique in its own way.
Diversity.
All right, Zach.
But Salta. I have no idea though.
Steven.
Way to tie it back into the UFO story. I got to go with Atacama.
Nick.
Steve, I said Andean because I can't think of the name.
Steven got it. It is the Atacama.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, that's that. They found a humanoid there about.
That little tiny guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I just couldn't remember that name, but yeah, when he said deserts, I'm like, okay, I can't remember that one in Chile, and I'm gonna get fucked over because of it. And there I go.
It's a great way to bother Zane. I'd be like, yeah, I know those from because of the conspiracy that happened there.
Question 5. Pictured here are Mongolia's Flaming Cliffs, a region of what desert? No obvious hoaxes have been found here, to my knowledge.
What about the man-eating giant worms?
You better watch out for those.
Those are known to inhabit this area. Maybe not the cliffs thing, but you know, that's what Dune's based on.
Zach?
Maybe.
I haven't put anything down. I have no idea.
Steven?
I'm totally blanking out on this one, so I'm just going Mongolian.
Nick?
Gobi.
And the audience also says Gobi. It is the Gobi.
Right.
Now that you say it, it makes so much sense.
Right?
I spent half the time trying to think of a joke, though, so because I'm just like, I give up.
You're like, I can't get it.
Find a joke
It's gonna be funny.
I'm not going to be getting this one right. I can tell you that.
You could have said Arrakis or something. I don't know.
Question 6. What handgun designed by Magnum Research was prominently featured in several films, including The Matrix and Demolition Man? Zach.
Desert Eagle.
Steven.
In the middle of writing it, but yeah, Desert Eagle.
All right. Nick.
Desert Eagle, aka the Deagle.
When I heard that this was called the Deagle, I thought it was very silly, but it is nicknamed that. Question 7. The campaign for North Africa, the Desert War, is what kind of activity, widely considered to be the most complex and detailed ever created?
What do you mean, what kind of activity?
Yeah, I don't get it at all. It's an activity.
What do you mean campaign for North Africa? Is this World War One?
It's a title of an activity. This activity was featured on an episode of the Big Bang Theory, but I never watched that show, so I just heard about it.
Oh, you're missing out.
I've watched it.
I've seen some episodes. I'm not impressed by it.
It's all right. It is what it is.
What you got for us?
Blowing up people with tanks.
Steven?
Catan?
Nick?
Long distance camel riding.
No, this is a famously complex board game. It's so complex that a full game of it has never actually been played by anyone, and the manufacturers recommend that it should be played with 2 teams of 5 people.
So the full game's never been played. So like, what happens? Everyone just gets bored and just goes all Lawrence of Arabia on each other, or what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Napoleon couldn't do it. Hitler couldn't do it. I give up too.
I mean, Lawrence, P.E. Lawrence kind of did it pretty well, right?
Yeah.
Question 8. What weekly BBC radio program, running since 1942, uses a somewhat contrived premise to ask guests about their 8 favorite songs?
Why am I supposed to care about the fucking BBC again?
I don't even think I can name my 8 favorite songs right now.
I don't even think I could name any BBC radio program.
Especially Nick, that is a very good question, but I was just trying to think of more answers that had the word desert in it, so I ended up asking about this. Zach?
I got nothing.
Deserted hits?
Nick?
Music desert?
Steven got the closest, but this is Desert Island Discs.
Yeah.
You got the closest because he used the word desert.
I mean, that's what it came down to. You're like, okay, the BBC has no deserts in their territory, so what uses the word desert in it?
All right. At the end of round 1, at the end of round 1, Steven, Nick, and the audience are all tied with 4. Zach was 3.
Tight game. Let's see who knows desserts.
Question 2. Just desserts. What dessert, consisting of cake, ice cream, and meringue, is customarily served by lighting the meringue on fire tableside? All right, Zach.
Flaming meringue.
Steven.
All right, don't ding me for the accent marks, but creme brulee.
Nick.
Lemon meringue. I don't know.
No, you're all wrong, but the audience has it. This is baked Alaska.
Oh.
Yeah. That makes sense now. I've never had it. Have you guys had it?
Nope.
I can't remember if I have or not. I may have. But anyway, question 2. What flavor of Ben & Jerry's ice cream is named in honor of the lead guitarist of Grateful Dead?
Those damn commies. Ben and Jerry.
Still waiting for them to release a free Palestine flavor. I might actually buy that.
Oh, it's fun. So they're like, one of the founders was on PBD recently, and he was talking about socialism, how great it is, and then PBD mentioned that the new CEO has like conservative leanings, and then 2 days later, he's being fired because he was like talking about his conservative leanings too publicly.
All right, Zach.
Cherry Garcia.
Steven.
Cherry Garcia.
Nick.
Cherry Garcia.
Yep, everyone gets this. It is Cherry Garcia. Question 3.
Probably their most famous flavor.
What dessert of bananas, ice cream, and rum sauce was first served in 1951 in a Creole restaurant in New Orleans? Apparently, back in the day, New Orleans was like a huge port of entry for bananas.
Yes.
Nice. And rum, probably.
Which, before genetic modification, were just full of seeds and inedible.
Oh,
yay.
Thank God for GMOs.
But that was, we're not talking about, lab and a microscope genetic modification. We're talking about selective crossbreeding.
We're talking about the organic, non-GMO GMOs.
Right, yeah.
They didn't also give you a vaccine by eating them.
Right, yeah.
All right, Zach.
Bananas Foster.
Steven.
Bananas Foster.
Nick.
Bananas French word. And I know it's Foster now, but I couldn't remember. I'm like, it's bananas something. I can't remember.
Named after the local police chief, actually. I don't know why, except that he was a friend of the owner.
I always thought it was Australian because the first time I had it was at Outback Steakhouse.
Australian for beer. Foster's
there's no rules
Australian
there.
for beer.
Right.
Crikey, mate. Nar.
Question 4. What dessert, typically prepared with Kirsch liqueur and, like baked Alaska, flambéed tableside, was likely created in 1897 for the 60th anniversary of Queen Victoria's ascension to the throne? There are a lot of desserts with booze in them, and I tried to ask about as many of them as I could, although there were even more that I didn't bring up.
I don't know desserts with booze in them.
There's apparently a dessert called Mango's Diablo, which is mangoes and tequila.
Yeah.
All right,
It
Zach.
doesn't even sound like a dessert, but okay.
I don't know. I just put cherries Kirsch.
Steven.
I said creme brulee.
Nick.
I'm taking one from Steven here.
Yeah.
No, this is Cherry's Jubilee, named after
was never
the
gonna get
Jubilee
that.
of Queen Victoria.
Obviously, I know of only one dessert you light on fire.
You don't really
We
light it
got
on
rid of
fire.
that fucking monarchy for a reason, so I don't have to know their stupid fucking desserts.
I prefer to have my dessert and booze separately.
Exactly.
Question 5. What cake, which also
Again with the
uses Kirsch,
Kirsch.
which also uses Kirsch along with cocoa, cherries, and whipped cream, is named after the region of the German state of Baden-Württemberg, pictured here? I just love cherries, you know. An excellent fruit. The audience says a bad cake. All right, Zach.
Put Baden bitch cherries.
Steven.
I'm probably wrong, but Black Forest.
Nick.
Württemberg cherry.
It is Black Forest cake.
Yeah.
What'd you say? Black Forest what? Dessert?
Black Forest cake.
I think technically it's called Black Forest Gâteau, but everybody calls it Black Forest cake.
Yeah.
Question 6. In 1938, Ruth Graves of Wakefield created a recipe for chocolate chip cookies while operating an inn named for what type of building? Chocolate chip cookies are still sometimes known by this name.
I don't get this question, but we'll see what happens.
Zach.
Brutalist.
Steven.
Hold on, still writing. Betty Crocker.
Nick.
Hostel?
No, the audience has it. It is a toll house.
That's not an inn.
Well, it was
Is
a
it
Toll
gnome?
House Inn was the name of the inn.
Okay, but you
that's
could
where
have
we get
been
the
like,
term Toll House cookie.
okay.
I'm looking at the
I
comments.
don't buy it.
Keebler. Of course, the gnome says
The
that.
gnome thinks about the Keebler. Yeah.
That's his alternative history. You know, that might be right in his world.
that the Keebler elves were actually gnomes.
Yeah.
All right. At the end of round 2, we've got Nick with 6, Zach with 7, Steven with 10, and the audience with 14.
Holy shit, I'm losing the bad for once.
I don't even remember getting any right.
Desserts are your weakness.
Can desserts just be simple? You know, like a cake or some ice cream. Why do we got to do all this wild shit to them?
It's culinary art.
Right.
Yeah, fuck that noise.
All right. Question 1 of round 3, a mystery category. What British author known as the Queen of Crime wrote novels such as And Then There Were None, Death on the Nile, and Murder on the Orient Express? Wow, I didn't even realize till now I actually asked 3 British questions. I bet, Nick, you're really not a fan of that.
Dude, we got rid of them for a reason.
That's probably why you're losing.
And I mean, they got conquered once, you know. The whole history of Britain is just getting conquered. First by the Romans, and now by the Pakistanis.
Well, by the Normans. Don't forget that.
Yeah,
Give
yeah.
the
The
UK
Romans,
back to the
Normans.
Anglo-Saxons.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, the Anglo-Saxons conquered them. I mean, they're just like a defeated people that happen to have an empire for a little bit of time.
All right, Zach, what you got?
J.K. Rowling.
Steven?
Where is it? Nancy Drew.
Nick?
Agatha Christie.
Yeah, it is Agatha Christie.
Nice.
Took me a little
That
bit to
sounds
get it out,
British.
but I was like, I actually knew that answer.
That's what she said.
Question 2. Roman Catholics contemplate the joyful mysteries, the luminous mysteries, the sorrowful mysteries, and the glorious mysteries while engaged in what activity? And it's not playing Campaign for North Africa, the Desert War.
Is it crusading?
No.
Well, let me change my answer then.
While engaged in what activity?
I loved your Calvinist joke, by the way, Steven. That made me laugh out loud by myself.
Yeah.
7 seconds.
All right, Zach.
Fasting.
Steven.
The Litany of the Saints.
Nick.
This is the Rosary.
It is praying the Rosary.
That's good. No Catholics here, obviously. Well, maybe Nick got it right, so you're now suspected Catholic.
Right. There might be some catholics just in the wrong convention.
Question 3. Pictured here is a typical scene from what television series featuring the characters Joel Robinson, Tom Servo, and Crow T. Robot?
This was such a big part of my childhood.
Oh, fuck.
All right, Zach.
Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Steven.
Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Nick.
Mark Twain.
It is Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Congratulations to the audience.
The audience did just clinch. In fact, they may have clinched it even on the question before. But
yes.
Last question for good measure. What is the full name of the first film in the Austin Powers series released in 1997? All right, Zach.
I put Austin Powers, the spy who shagged me.
Steven.
Yeah. Austin Powers, Spy Who Shagged Me. Randy, baby.
I thought the Spy Who Shagged Me was the second one, so I'm saying trick question is just Austin Powers.
Well, everyone would have done well to remember that we are in a mystery category. So it was, in fact, Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery.
Well, the last time I saw that was 1997, so...
Yeah, it's been a while. What, Spy Who Shagged Me was the second one, and Goldmember was the third, I thought?
Yeah. I think so.
They were all ridiculous.
Which means that we've got Zach was 10, Nick was 12, Steven was 13, and the audience winning again was 20.
All right, I got a chance to
Yay.
at least come in first of the host, maybe. Oh, that was the last question. Never mind then. I thought we still had one more. I can't.
Nothing is more mysterious than that picture, I tell you, man. Jeez.
It wouldn't be the first time I tried to end early on accident. So
quitting while you're behind.
I mean, I'm always behind, so I'm not worried about it. But all right.
You gotta do something about that audience. It's way too overweighted for them.
I mean, we can start banning people.
Oh, but still, like 10 people making a guess is better than each of us doing a single guess. So,
I mean, one person doing their guess is better than me. So, I don't know. What are you gonna do?
I don't know. We'll figure it out one day.
last subject here, which may not take us the whole time, so maybe we can just chit chat. Where did my screen go? All right. Nope, that is not right. I was going to talk about the April Fool's jokes from corporate America that we saw this last April 1st. So let's just go through them. Some of them are hits, some of them are misses. So we got Whiskers cat scented candle. I don't know. I feel like only cat people are going to be interested in that, in which case their house already smells like cat. So who cares about that one?
These are joke products or real products?
Evidently, these are joke products that came out, or jokes that brands launched on April 1st. Let's see. So Olipop, which is this soda that's supposed to have like probiotics in it, they did a collab with Hidden Valley Ranch to have a ranch flavored soda here.
I may have friends
try
who
that?
No, I've never had an Olipop, even though I think I might know friends who know the founders of that. This goes back
I've
a
had
ways.
them. They're okay.
Aren't they like getting sued because they keep saying their soda is healthy even though it's not?
I have no idea because I've never had it and I haven't paid attention to it, but
my power's flickering. Just a heads up, guys. We got tornadic weather around us, apparently. Yeah.
I have a UPS, but that's only good for so long. So
right.
I thought there were some like better ones in here.
Oh, okay. So the Omaha Steaks romance novel reminds me of when KFC filmed a mini movie and showed it on the Hallmark Channel, but that was actually real.
Well, they really did it, at least.
It was a real mini movie featuring Mario Lopez as Colonel Sanders.
Oh my god. I fell for two really hard.
It was called A Recipe for Seduction.
There was one near me that said that there was a nudist colony moving to Manchester, Georgia from Michigan, and they were purchasing a 100-acre plot of land. I was like, oh, they need a survey. I was like, sweet. Let me figure out who this is. That wasn't real. And then there was another one that said that there was a narwhal in Puget Sound in Seattle.
Just a little south for a narwhal.
Right. They were like, it's the first time they've seen one this far south in over 100 years.
Good night, Grumpy.
Night, Grumpy.
To be honest, the Omaha Steaks romance novels sound better than Stacey Abrams romance novels, but
yeah. So titles included Filet Mignon and Flames of Desire and the sizzling, or no, not sizzling. I'm adding, Southern to it when it didn't call for that. The sizzle of sirloin.
So
certified.
The name Omaha Steaks is the only reason. The one time I was in Omaha, I was like, what do I want to eat here? And we decided we were going to go find steak. And we ended up just doing some research and finding Warren Buffett's favorite steakhouse.
And
so
this one made me think of you, Nick. Mr. T's Pierogies Day Spa Kit.
Pierogies Spa Day Kit, yeah.
Yeah. So it included potato and cheese infused masks, sour cream scented candles, and plush dumpling shaped bath pillow. Why can't I talk right now?
I mean, at the Pirates games they have pierogi races.
What does that look like?
This is why no one goes.
Like you have people dressed up as pierogies, and there's there's like cheese Chester and jalapeno Hannah and Oliver Onion.
Jalapeno Hannah. Should be Hannah's new nickname in our audience. All right. Maybe this was the sucky article, because this one is not nearly as good as I remember. Okay. Cheese It X Coffee Mate.
So many of these are just gross. They're not even funny. They're just ew.
Yeah. It's just how could our product be used in the worst way possible?
Yeah, making it cheesy and trying to put that in your coffee just sounds absolutely horrible.
Yeah, so it's Cheez It Cold Foam Creamer, and it's in like a whipped cream bottle. So there would also be like people in the trailer park getting high off that too.
Whippets.
Yeah, they'd be doing whippets of Cheez It Cold Foam. And we lost Steven, so I guess he's been hit by a tornado. So
well, hopefully everything's all right. But
yeah.
You know, at
Just
least
in
there might be a
case.
good story if there is a tornado.
Yeah. Pray the rosary and ponder the mysteries for Stephen, just in case. All right. This next one might be a little better. Or is this the same article? Oh, no, this is different. All right. So Arizona did the iced tea company. They did the laziest one.
Just want to put it out there, since AI was the topic of discussion. AI could make make these listicles a lot better than whatever intern wrote them, and they deserve to be fired and let AI take over. Fuck you, Joseph Lamore.
Maybe AI is very unfunny though. You ask it, I mean, like every now and then it has something like I can work with that, but I don't even know if it could come up with this level of humor, which isn't very high. But Arizona Iced Tea came out with Air Riz Ona. So
By the Rizzler.
Hilarious Gen Z humor there.
Well,
they said Riz.
I don't even is the Rizzler even Gen Z? He's
or he might be
8 years old, isn't he?
I don't know. I'm just old enough to blame Gen Z for everything. So, yeah, I didn't see that, but it's, by the Rizzler. So I'm guessing this, flop of a April Fool's joke earned some kid a bunch of money just for lending.
They got 117,000 likes somehow.
Yeah, I've never done that good, so I can't talk, I guess. But Baskin Robbins / I don't even know what that is. Tarte Cosmetics. Maybe the gals know, but I mean, this one doesn't really seem funny at all. It's like, haha, makeup and ice cream. Got him. All right, I think we got Steven back.
Hey, here I am.
No tornado?
Not yet.
Yeah.
There, in the past month, there have been 3 within 5 miles of me. So
it's been crazy lately.
Yeah.
Well, so far you haven't missed any good April Fool's pranks. These have all been pretty cringe. So this one I could have believed had I seen it in the moment, just because every brand seems to be going to some postmodern bullcrap. But I guess Cinnabon
shorter and shorter.
Yeah, Cinnabon announced they were changing their name to just Cinna, and it's got some fancy script and looks very proper. So I totally could have bought this one. I don't know if it's the most hilarious joke I've ever seen, but it might have gotten me.
They need to announce that they're going to do a Hellraiser themed treat for Halloween called a Cinnabite.
I don't get that one.
That could be real.
Hellraiser is.
So Hellraiser is the old movie with the there's a cube. You put it together the right way, and the guy with all the needles in his face comes back from hell and kills everything. Yeah. Anyways, Cinnabites
are like it. Yeah. You've got your gigabytes, then terabytes, and then your Cinnabites.
Boom. That's exactly right.
The petabytes and
all right.
And then zettabytes after that.
Rabbit hole.
So Crunch Bar, we only spent time introducing our quietest bar ever. So a Crunch Bar that doesn't make sound. Hilarious. Made with boiled white rice.
Your jokes are bad and you should feel bad.
Denny's and Mattress Firm bed and breakfast drop. So you could stay, I guess, in a Denny's themed bed and breakfast. I don't know. I mean, continental breakfasts are kind of already
655 likes.
Yeah,
that's pretty bad.
This reminds me of another thing that KFC actually did, which KFC has the best marketing because they don't just Photoshop a bunch of stuff that's not real. They actually go out and do all of their marketing ideas, which gets them I suppose a lot more publicity, but they made a gaming console, and this is real. You could actually buy this, where they made a gaming console with a big hole in the middle of it where you could put fried chicken to keep it warm. And keep it warm from the heat of the rest of the console.
Apparently, Google in 2015 did com.google for a website you could go to, and you type in everything and it shows it backwards.
And you're on mute.
I was just agreeing. Like, yeah, I saw that when I checked it. Doesn't exist anymore, Steven, unfortunately. I was gonna bring up some of the best stuff, but they don't keep these going forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, the chicken game console works really well if you're literally always eating chicken while you game. Like, you can't do one without the other.
And you're not.
So this one actually should have existed, I think. So Dr. Pepper times TicTacs. That would actually be good. People love Dr. Pepper.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I do enjoy Dr. Pepper.
Imagine the UFOs.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, this wouldn't be a bad idea. This could actually be all right, especially if you made it can shaped. That'd be pretty interesting.
I'd be okay with regular TicTac shape.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't as bad.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe the UFO was an elaborate April Fool's prank. You know, Dr. Pepper's behind that one.
Are you having bad internet connection?
All right.
This is another one where it's just new.
Yeah, just another, like, oh, this would taste gross, wouldn't it? So I don't even know this brand, but it's coffee creamer, Khalifa Farms, and Tabasco, which actually it shows a pretty decent looking drink there. So it's like the joke is we would make a pretty decent Bloody Mary.
Well, it says only Tabasco sauce, water, and sea salt on that label. So I mean, I don't know. That doesn't look like a bad Bloody Mary to me.
Right. Yeah. Needs a couple of bacon sticks in there though.
And then 8 o'clock coffees, coffee infused whole black beans. So another one where it's just like, ew, this would taste gross.
Yeah, that's not cool.
You know,
I'm not doing that. That sounds like fucking beans on coffee, fucking Britain type of shit there.
Yeah. All right, this one they at least made a video. So let's watch the Furby/Grillo's Pickles, which, you know, to their credit, I was not familiar with them, and now I'm seeing a Furby, so I'm somewhat familiar.
Furbies used to be cool.
All right, here we go.
Pickles, 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 pickles. Pickles, pickles.
I like it. I give it an A for effort.
All right.
Oh, Furby. Yeah, most of these really are just, haha, wouldn't this taste weird? I don't even know what this one is. Electric berry lemonade jam. That sounds good.
Yeah, that's Jamba Juice, man. Jamba was like the original like smoothie shop.
Yeah, I never been to Jamba, so
yeah.
All right, so this one's just like, wouldn't it be crazy if we made this? We're not gonna. Josh/Joss and Maine. No, okay, that's the Josh Wine. What is the joke here?
Okay, this is actually by far the worst product I've seen, because what's going on here is they've made the couch with a bunch of like wine stains already on it, like sewn into the fabric. So it looks like you just have wine stains everywhere.
Your joke is bad and you should feel bad. Are these all from this year, or are they
I mean, according to this article, you know, who knows?
With 68.9 thousand followers, and they got 218 likes.
218 likes.
So
everyone's like me. They didn't get it. They needed Zane to explain it to them. So, KFC / his Smile toothpaste.
Zane, explain the joke.
These lesser brands have got to be paying. They've got to be like, hey, KFC, please help us.
Something KFC related that's not a joke. They have, I don't know if they're going to do it this year for Christmas, but they have a scented fire log for your fireplace. Oh my God, it's amazing. It smells just like their fried chicken.
Wait, did you actually get one of those?
Oh, yes, sir, I did. I bought 5 of them and I gave them to my friends.
I like that idea, actually. That's not bad.
Yeah, I think the real lesson here, given that this is the 3rd time we've talked about KFC, is that all these, dear all of these companies, in order to get us to pay attention, you need to actually make and sell all of these gag products. Otherwise, we don't care.
Or KFC, or they could at least put a giant chicken up in Marietta.
They have.
Well,
think that
KFC
was the
did, but
joke.
none of these other companies have a giant
Oh,
chicken
yeah.
in there yet.
Yeah, if they just had that up like one day a year, they'd be like, "Oh, epic prank, bro!" But we've become accustomed to its face, so we got the giant chicken year round. All right, Kikkoman perfume. They say evoke the sweet, savory scents of America's #1 soy sauce.
Yeah,
Spritz
no
of
one
soy.
wants that. Yeah.
Yeah, we got enough soy in our culture.
Yeah.
Lipton discontinues peach iced tea. So this one's just, triggering people. Like, hey, this disgusting tea you like? It's gone. And they spelled flavor with a U. What the
Like
crap?
they're British.
Boy.
Wait, it actually. Oh, never mind. What's Bev? Okay, never mind. I thought they were going somewhere else. Ignore me. Spritz Society. See, now we're just giving attention to brands I've never heard of before in my life.
Manischewitz?
Yeah, I've never heard of that. And like, what's funny about grape?
So Manischewitz is like a Jewish grape wine company.
Yeah, that's a very, very well-known name. Look at the brand, Kosher Products. Kosher Products brand, Manischewitz.
The thing with this one is, if I saw this, I might actually think this is real, because sparkling Manischewitz, like hard sparkling hard cider would probably be pretty good. Like, this actually makes sense as a product.
That looks decent. Yeah, like it's a tasty looking marketing can. Oh, we lost Steven again.
Yeah, he said,
just messaged saying there was a boom.
So
we might have actually lost Steven. But McAllister's Deli Pickle Tea. All right.
Ew.
I would try
How
that.
many of these are there?
No, I can't.
I didn't know this many companies even did this anymore.
I don't know. Oh, another pickle. Hilarious. I don't even know what that's about.
Pickle
milk.
Ew.
That's gross.
That's fucking gross.
Pierogies again.
We've been through the pierogies.
Okay, this one wasn't bad, I guess. A Nutella themed Airbnb. So entire home. Why is my page screwing up? Entire home in Hazelnut Haven, Lake Placid, New York.
If you ever wanted to go to Lake Placid, but no, there ain't much there.
I mean, that one would have been good if they would have really just done it. Like, you have the money as multinational corporation, just make the Nutella house.
Yeah, it'd be a pretty cheap.
It can be like the Airbnb inside of the last Blockbuster that's like Blockbuster themed.
Yeah.
Pringles,
butter and salt by Aunt Annie's. Again, that sounds okay.
Butter and salt is what goes on a potato.
Yeah. All right. This page is screwing up, and these are getting increasingly stupid. So anyway, let's just end with a little bit of, what is it? Whining philosophical. You guys got anything to talk about just in general?
Since my phone was messing up all day, yesterday and today, I didn't have time to spend playing on my phone and seeing what I might like to think, but
you can't think without your phone. The AI.
Well, I don't have anything. I didn't have any stimulation, and then also like add on top of that, I got hit with hey, this thing that we sold doesn't work at work, so try to make it work without going crazy. So I was on like meetings and testing stuff and running around all morning, all day with that the past couple of days. So I haven't had real time to think, but I did go to one of those phone repair shops for the first time today to see about getting my phone fixed. So for anyone who's not in the loop, my phone was working yesterday, and then I went and I mowed the lawn.
Everybody who's not in the loop about your phone being broken, which is everybody besides you.
Yeah, I know. I'm just.
When you say one of those phone repair shops, do you mean those ones in like the strip mall that looks like an obvious money laundering scheme? Like one.
But this was like independent small business, not a franchise or something like that looks like it. So I mean, it was like right down the road from where I work. It's like the guy who owns it was the guy working there. So, you know, it was like a normal small business thing, I guess. But I went down there because my phone the touch screen of my phone, it wouldn't recognize any touch at all. So like I was listening to my phone while mowing the lawn.
That's
and
a
I
really
could control
interesting story.
Yeah, I could control it through the headphones. I could get in my car. I could make calls, but I couldn't get into the phone at all. Anyway, I paid him $30 to diagnose it, and basically he fucking cracked it open and looked at it. And well, he cracked it open, unplugged the battery, plugged it back in, and it worked. Go figure.
Did you try turning it off and then on again?
Yes, that's the first thing I tried, but apparently a hard reset on it doesn't do the same thing as a harder reset. And I see the lightning coming through your window, Zane.
Yeah, it's storming pretty good here.
But so whenever they tell you to hard reset your stuff, it doesn't always work. And so what I ended up doing is I did that hard reset a bunch of times, still couldn't touch the screen. And then I was looking online and taking any advice I could find on the internet, which said,
"Hey Zach, do you have access to the soundboard to start playing the crickets?"
I says, all right, let's see what the internet says. So the internet says update my phone. I force update through the computer to it, and then my screen goes from like looking like it works to just nothing. Exactly. No, I got a white screen that said swipe up to restore, and I couldn't swipe, and I just was like, oh, my phone's brick. I lost everything. Went to the store, he tore it apart, unplugged it, and whatever. Cost me $30, but my 5-year-old phone still works, so I'm in a pretty good spot right now, and I'm quite happy because that was the stress of last night and today. You know, using the soundboard right now. Hey, look, this is called whining. This segment is called whining. So I'm going to whine about it.
Interesting.
Well, all right, you know what's interesting? For the first time in years, I listened to terrestrial radio on my way to work this morning.
You know what? That does actually, it is interesting to me because number one, when I broke my phone last, I discovered they do not like it when you won't tell them your PIN. They were really suspicious and pissed off at me because I'm like, no, I'm not giving that to you. And they're like, well, we won't be able to do diagnostics. I'm like, I don't care. Fix my phone and then just give it to me. And if it works, it works. Also, that was on January 6th, and I was listening to terrestrial radio. So I got to hear all of that unfold when normally I would have been listening to freaking podcasts. So that was fun. So yeah,
I think I heard like I was listening to a country station. I think in my 25 minute drive to work, there were like maybe 2 songs, and the rest was just like them bullshitting or commercials, which it's like, I don't know. I could listen to a commercial and I could be listening to podcasts or an audiobook or whatever and be intaking so much more information than just like listening to the same like couple songs on repeat. So
yeah, why listen to terrestrial radio when you can listen to the Liberty Libations podcast? You heard it here first, folks. Terrestrial radio is for low IQ individuals.
Yes, and what makes you high IQ is joining the Dollar Media Club. Just $1 a month. You get in the Discord, get all the good perks of being a member. So go click that join button right now.
Yeah. While listening to terrestrial radio, you could listen to our 24/7 stream, which is nothing but us and my podcast and Binkley and just all sorts of nonsense. But really
no on Rumble,
at least. So yeah. Anyway, anything from you, Zane? Any last words? Any whining? Any stories about electronic breaking?
I think after that, we just need to get to the funnies as soon as possible.
Oh, I forgot about the funnies. Thank you. I was about to just end abruptly. Here. Let's do some funnies. Boom.
Say the weird thing.
At one point in time in the United States, the dairy industry was struggling so heavily that they reached out to lobbyists who went to the government, who encouraged them to buy an excess of cheese to make sure the stock market didn't crash surrounding the dairy industry, resulting in what we now know as the cheese case, but also something.
All right, pause.
There's an imposter among us.
I thought I was adding Steven back. We have Mary Beth.
Hello. What are you guys talking about?
Well, we were just wrapping up, so we were playing what's supposed to be funny, but is really just still, our dorky libertarian stuff in disguise. So here is the weird thing.
Okay.
Oh, come on, Sam.
At one point in time in the United States, the dairy industry was struggling so heavily that they reached out to lobbyists who went to the government, who encouraged them to buy an excess of cheese to make sure the stock market didn't crash surrounding the dairy industry, resulting in what we now know as the cheese caves, but also something else. While the government stores the cheese in the cheese caves, they also send out plenty of excess cheese to modern pizza chains in the United States, such as Papa John's and Domino's and Jets, and pretty much every pizza chain you know of uses government cheese. Because they had such an excess of cheese and because they were looking for a way to get rid of it to justify the cost of buying so much, the government encouraged a lot of these chain pizza places to use more and more cheese in various products. The government is why we have stuffed crust pizza.
All right.
That might be the only good thing the government's ever done.
So at first I was like, where is this cheese cave? Because I need into that. But
Well, they have cheese that's aged in caves in Italy that's illegal to import into the United States. That seems
so
pretty
it's got
good.
the one with the maggots in it. Is it the one with the maggots in it where you're not allowed to bring it in because it's like live animals inside the cheese?
I don't know about that one. I know like sometimes it'll have too much ash on it because they'll like rub ashes on the outside, but you know, the maggot one maybe I'm okay with. I don't want that one anyway. But
my audio was getting messed up, so I didn't even realize Steven came back in and it got hijacked by his wife.
yes, I hijacked his. All right, so I was gonna make it look like I did something with him, like oh, you don't need to know what I did with him, like he's gone. But then, what really happened is our power went out.
I just imagine he's out fighting the tornado right now.
He's fighting the tornado.
Shooting at the tornado.
He's got the lasso, you know.
Yeah.
So.
All right. This is our last thing. And actually, I really had Steven in mind when I brought this one up, but it'll even be better to have your. Oh, come on. No.
In here now.
Now we got Steven back instead of boring.
No, we don't want him back.
We got boring old Steven instead of Mary.
Gene. Oh.
No, they like me.
They do like you, yeah.
All right, here is the last thing. And I had this in mind. I had you in mind when I brought this up, Steven.
I learned something today. You never really know who people are. There's this dentist that just got busted for drug dealing, lives down the road from me. I've been going to this guy for 12 years, and never would I have guessed that dude was a dentist.
That's pretty good.
Oh, that's the best. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll have to explain that one to Mary. She looks very confused right now.
That's my kind of revelation. So the guy was, I'll tell you later. Wes is in here. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We got sensitive, subject. But anyway, that's it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Do you have anything last thing to add, Steven, or you just out fighting tornadoes right now? What's going on?
Yeah, we're out fighting tornadoes. I can bring this up on the next episode. But the Fayette Coweta Libertarian affiliate for the state of Georgia is finally getting together again. It's been a few months. We've been fragmented, and of course the people that have been unavailable for 4 months are blaming the Mises Caucus. But anyways, we're getting together again. It's been a while. But,
I'm seeing myself out of the equation.
Yes, our beloved chair is getting voted out.
Yeah.
And
I'm just too busy.
It's going to be on the 19th. It's next Saturday. So we're gonna be at Line Creek Brewery in Fayetteville. So if you're in that neck of the woods, come on down. And if you want to be chair, show up and speak your voice and be in good standing with the party.
Otherwise, Mary has to do it again.
Right. Yeah. And there's no interest in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Westmoreland County, PA is having our annual meeting. We're doing it online because it's been too long on that, and I don't have it built up to the point to like justify going somewhere and having 4 of us sit around. But check out lppa.org or LP Westmoreland for that. I think I have it scheduled for the 28th, and we're going to do elections, and I'm rewriting bylaws because that's my thing, I guess. And I didn't like the way the ones currently were written. Yay.
This is even worse than your phone being broken.
Hey, Hey, it
All
was
right.
called Whining Philosophical, and I was just saying, hey, those stores aren't always a scam or that sketchy. They actually kind of do good work sometimes.
I ended up
They're
enjoying it, Nick.
That was
Anyway,
a huge
that
part
is
of
it.
my past 2 days, like stressing out over the fact that I had
Yeah.
zero phone to like call anyone, or like I'm watching something or I think of something and I just can't pull my phone out and Google it and search it and be like, all right, tell me about this thing, because I can't access it.
See, at least when I have nothing to say, I just don't say anything, like right now.
The segment is called Whining Philosophical. I'm allowed to whine about stuff.
Zach, that would have been a great time to just end the show right there.
I thought about it. I really
gift
did.
wrapped it.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. Good night to the Hiltons. Good night, Wes. Go to sleep.
Stay safe from tornadoes and stuff, everyone.
Yeah. Cheers.
Bye, everyone.
Crew